Well, fine. Good afternoon, all. This is Patricia, and I'm traveling for history. I'm in Rockwell's retreat today with our tour guide today, and this is
Kevin Harder.
Kevin Harder. Now, you own the place, right?
Yes, we bought this 5 years ago. October 2019 is when we bought it.
Wow.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Barely.
Wow. I'm sorry that was the case. But I'm guessing it was all right because you're here and people come here. And
It all worked out. As we say, it gave us the gift of time to make this how we wanted it to be done.
Excellent way to look at that.
You have to.
You have to, yes. Not much choice there. But so he's going to be giving us a tour today of this beautiful place, and we can see very wide planking for the floors.
Yeah, the home itself, it's a 1792 farmhouse. So it has a lot of prehistory before Norman came. Norman lived here from 1943 to 53. Prior to that, it was just a farmhouse, and it had actually gone into really bad disrepair around the 1920s, turn of the century to the 1920s. I can show you some pictures of that. It was abandoned in really bad shape. Then a group of New Yorkers bought it in the 30s, turned it into a kind of an Airbnb, a tourist home. And then Norman bought it in 1942, redid it again, and stayed here until 1953.
Wow. Wow. So it's hard to imagine this building is abandoned, but it's beautiful now.
Yeah, if you look behind you, these pictures over there next to the door, to your right, over here, they show what this, how dilapidated it was during we think it's around the turn of the century. But that's our little valley. That's the view out the front door, which really hasn't changed with the bridge and the schoolhouse and the church.
You drove by them.
Yeah, but the house was in really poor shape at one time.
Wow.
So we romanticize old homes, but they've had a long and tough journey.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah. So come on in.
You filming?
And so this was traditionally this would have been the dining area. But now it's a little sitting room for our guests.
Wow. Beautiful spot.
And we didn't want to make this home all about Norman because it has its own history. But obviously, there's pieces of Norman. He left quite a mark here. So there's bits of Norman here. And we'll go out to the studio that he built. And obviously, that's all about Norman.
Absolutely.
And there's some pictures of Norman and his family while he lived here. And that's his son Tommy sitting with Norman when he lived here.
Wow. Now, Tommy, is he still alive?
He passed away about a month ago, 6 weeks ago.
Wow.
He had 3 boys, Peter, Jarvis, and Tommy. Jarvis is the oldest one. He's still alive. Peter passed away about 5 years ago, and Tommy passed away just about a month ago.
Wow. Did they ever come here to visit?
Jarvis has. Tommy had some memory issues going on. So Jarvis is the only one that has showed up. So this was probably traditionally kind of a living area. This is the dining area for our guests, breakfast, and also sitting area as well.
Wow. It's a beautiful fireplace. Look at this. Look at this wide planking. You do not see this anymore. Trees don't grow this big anymore here.
No, and the English would all steal it and send it back to England.
Terrible.
That's right.
Is this pine?
It is. It's eastern white pine.
Beautiful. Wow. Now, I'm thinking there would have been some sort of implements for cooking in there.
Those are just kind of for stoking and moving.
Right.
This wasn't a cooking fireplace. If they did have the cooking fireplace would have been in the other room. So the room that we were just in, which is a sitting room, was probably the dining area, but back behind that would have been the historical kitchen.
Okay.
But that's all been changed since then. And you want to peek upstairs?
Of course.
All right, so Norman's room, we have 8 total bedrooms. 5 are in this building, and then there are 2 in Norman's studio, and then 1, there was an outbuilding that Norman turned into a studio for his 3 boys, and that was called Jarvis's studio, and that's 1 suite now.
Oh, wow.
These stairs are cool. Door a lot smaller back than this.
So I'll give you a peek of Norman's room, which is, it's all been changed a little bit. I don't think Norman had it quite
Wow.
like this. But this is the Norman Rockwell room.
Wow.
And
It's beautiful. Would he have had the wallpaper?
he would have had some sort of 1940s wallpaper. We have found bits and pieces of it. We re-wallpapered, and when we're peeling layers of wallpaper, we found some interesting old pieces of wallpaper.
Wow. Did it have the ensuite?
I don't think Norman had that.
But it's lovely nonetheless.
Yeah, I would imagine. There might have been 1 or 2 bathrooms up here on the second floor that the whole family would have been using,
Wow.
as opposed to an outhouse, which I think the neighbor's house still had.
Yeah.
Because really, they just when Norman moved in here in 1943. They had just gotten power here on this road just a couple of years before that,
Wow.
and telephones and all that modern stuff.
God forbid.
Wasn't that long ago. So actually, one of his more famous paintings called "The Gossips," where there's about a dozen people kind of all pointing their fingers at each other because of their gossiping. But he actually painted that because, whenever somebody would have a phone call and it was all a party line, all the neighbors would be on the phone listening. And he kind of painted that as a poignant, for a reason. But he did paint himself in there as well. So he had a good sense of humor. So so we have, there's the 4 bedrooms upstairs. And they're all fairly similar to this. They've been redone. This one is very similar. This was actually his son's room.
Jarvis's?
Maybe 2 or Jarvis's, or 2 or 3, or all the boys. Not sure, but this was the boys' room.
These are big bedrooms.
Yeah, they're big bedrooms, and for a home of this age, it really has high ceilings.
Oh, true.
We had an old 1740s home before we came here, and the ceilings are about, maybe 6'2". And for this house to have such high ceilings is pretty special.
Love the tile work in here too. And he likely would not have had an ensuite too.
No, that's things have certainly changed over time. sometimes it's hard to figure out what the original footprint was of a building. But it's, yeah, it's certainly different than it was.
And that's a king-size bed.
It is.
Wow, it's just huge.
Yeah, those were fun.
Now, is this a beam or is there a conduit of some sort?
It is a beam.
Okay.
So that's what I wonder if, you know, if, although I didn't see anything on the floor, if there was, you know, sometimes you would see kind of a wall here, but
Right.
I don't think that was the case.
Wow. Amazing.
So yeah, so there's 4 total bedrooms on the second floor. This is the old linen closet which was attached, so that's attached to Norman's room, but so I don't know if originally that was be an infant's room or a sick room, because they had sick rooms back in the day to kind of quarantine people, but we're not sure.
So the door that was in the bathroom.
Yes,
Okay.
that goes into that. Although that one, it's kind of locked and bolted shut now, because I needed a linen closet to keep our stuff in for
Wow.
our guests. So it's good to have that.
It's very good to have that. Yeah. You need a storage room. Oh, it's,
Yeah.
and the wallpaper is beautiful.
All the storage.
Oh, love the. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cute little room, but it's kind of useless for our purposes. And then there are two more rooms down at the end of this hallway as well.
And where does that one go?
Sorry?
Where does that one go? Does it go
Oh,
to
this
the
one's
bedroom?
just a little closet for cleaning supplies.
Ooh, there
And
is
then
a.
this stairway would have been kind of the old servant stairway.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of steep and it goes right down to the kitchen.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yep. And here, as you can see with this beam, this was the original end of the house at one point.
Wow.
And then everything over here was a later addition.
Oh, wow. And wow, that is an interesting jump right there.
Yeah, so
Oh.
this transition, this is newer, this room. This is above the kitchen, which was added on probably about 30 years ago. So this is the newest part, even though the windows are great. Those are old windows. But this was kind of a newer addition.
So the glass in those windows, is that original or is it the company that makes the
That's
old looking glass?
It's old.
Oh, it is
Yeah,
original. Wow.
it's, but there wasn't a window there, so they either moved them or, you know, the old farmers were very good at keeping things and reusing things.
Well, it's hard to buy those things. So
It is.
it makes sense. I cannot do that window justice. Nope. Oh. Glass like that is very interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I get some great shots through old wavy glass sometimes, some really neat pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Which is neat.
You know, one place I filmed recently, the Old Stonehouse Museum in Arlington, had old glass like that, and children had etched their names because of the dormitories. We were in the
Right.
dormitory floors. These girls had etched their names in the glass.
Isn't that, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, it's
That's very
almost-
cool.
It's almost spooky.
Yeah.
And then there's this little room watcher stuff here. Not so little. It kind of goes on.
Wow.
And,
Oh, a double-sided fireplace.
yeah,
Wow.
this area would have been this and upstairs and downstairs. This would have been where when Norman was here, they had a live-in couple that would help them, and they'd live over on this side of the house, and then that's what they'd sneak back down the servant stairs and get dinners ready and everything for them. So they kind of lived over in this side of the house.
So they took care of the children, they took care of the house, yes and yes?
Yep. They would, and the grounds and things.
Oh.
Norman would be busy just working and painting. Norman's wife, Mary, also would be helping him quite a bit, taking his work. She'd take it down to, the Saturday Evening Post was in Philadelphia, so she would be taking these paintings and likely taking the train. You could take it from Arlington down through Troy and to Albany down to Philadelphia.
Wow.
So she was very busy as well.
Wow. So he would he would just finish these paintings and she would just do that.
Yep.
Wow.
They'd take them, yeah. Or also some of the neighbors would also help him with that.
Amazing.
Yeah. There were 3 other artists who came up to paint with Norman. They all painted at the Post. They were New Yorkers, but they all came up to Arlington. Meade Schaefer, Jack Atherton, George Hughes, and Don Trachty. And they would come up and they lived in Arlington and they were all very supportive of each other.
That is lovely.
Is that an old window? In the back there?
So that is,
Original glass.
I don't know how old it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's older. I don't know how old it is.
That is lovely. Wow. And nice privacy too, without it being, draped or curtained or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice. Yeah. So this is a little mountain view room, which is
Wow.
it's back up on Big Spruce Mountain back there.
That is a lovely view, especially this time of the year.
It is. It's nice. Stick season is. It's pretty.
Wow. Look at that clawfoot tub.
Yeah, it's got the big soaking tub.
Oops. And these things are gorgeous. Wow.
So it's kind of a nice little romantic room.
Nice and deep.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful place. And who doesn't love chrome? Well, cleaning chrome, not so much.
Great.
But I love chrome.
Yeah, it's nice in the bathroom. I like the chrome and white and traditional.
Beautiful.
Should we make our way downstairs and then we can get over
Absolutely.
to the studio?
Sounds great.
All right, so Norman, he was a native New Yorker. He was born in 1894, and a lot of people think, oh, wasn't Norman a wealthy artist? But he was born poor in the tenements, bounced around the city. But by the time he got to high school, he was a prodigy. They finally realized, pulled him out of regular school, and he started going to the Art Institute of New York. By the time he was 19, he had his first professional gig with Boys Life magazine, which he kept up with for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And then by the time he was 21, he did his first cover for the Saturday Evening Post. And by the end of his life, he did 326. 70-ish of them he did here in this studio.
Wow.
And we'll go out and see that. But Norman got to Vermont. He was in New York. He was married. His first marriage only lasted a couple years. It didn't work out. There was a lot of social pressures being in New York. And after that marriage didn't work out, he went off to California for vacation, met his second wife, Mary, and brought her back to New York. And they had 3 boys, Peter, Jarvis, and Tommy. But Norman was still feeling the pressures of New York. They came up to Arlington just for a long weekend getaway with Mary, and he decided this would be a nice quiet place for him to live. So his first home in Arlington was down this dirt road closer to Arlington, and he had a small studio there, but he burned that one down with his pipe ashes.
Oh, darn.
And so instead of going back to New York, though, he moved down the road to this house and built that studio, which we'll go see.
Wow. So for the Saturday Evening Post, Did he approach them? Did they ask him?
He
know?
was, well, he had such a name for himself.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure that they reached out to him. He was working with some of the other artists who were doing covers. So they saw his talents and wanted him to be a part of that.
Nice. Thank you.
So Norman moved here, and he built a big studio with the big windows.
Wow.
So those are all the big windows facing due north, so it doesn't get any direct light in the studio, and he can use all that good natural light.
Smart.
For painting.
Wow. Looks newer than that, too. I wouldn't have guessed that old.
So yeah, when Norman was here, the little building that was just a farm out building, and that's the one he turned into the studio for his 3 boys.
The one on the left.
And he built the big studio.
Wow.
And our house over here didn't exist. When Norman was here, that was a tennis court.
Wow.
Norman liked to play some tennis.
Did his boys paint? Were they artists too?
That's a great question. They were all artists in their own right. Jarvis, when he came to visit, I asked him how it was being an artist, being Norman's son. He said, well, why do you think I quit painting?
Oh.
Because it was hard to be Norman's son. So he stopped drawing and painting and got more into modern arts, mobiles, and kind of modern things. Peter, he was a sculptor. So he ended up spending a lot of his life in Rome working for the church.
Wow.
And redoing sculptures and things. And then Tommy, he was a writer. So Norman's wife, Mary, she was younger. He met her, but she went to Stanford in California. She always wanted to be a writer. So kind of that's why Tommy picked up that baton and wanted to write, and he wrote a book called How to Eat Fried Worms, which sold millions of copies, and we all had to read it when it's like a 5th and 6th grade book, and it's still in print, and he did very well with that and wrote some other children's books.
Wow.
So they were all artists of some sort.
Was his wife's works published at all?
No, she never got to write.
Oh, she never did?
No, because by the time she was 14 years younger than Norman, and when Norman met her, then she was spending a lot of her time supporting Norman. So she never had the opportunity to write.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. And the house next door, which is a sister house of this house, but when Norman lived here, the Edgertons lived here. And you'll hear more about them in the studio. But they were really just poor dirt farmers, you know, doing whatever they could do to survive. When Norman the rock star moved in here. So their lives were very much changed when Norman moved in.
For the better? For the not?
Oh, for very much the better.
Oh, good. Good. Wow. So before we walk in, what is this space used for now?
I'll show you.
Huh.
So we've redone that to make it as it was when Norman painted in there, because it was in really sad shape. After Norman left here in 1953, it kind of just went into being like a long-term rental space. So when we bought it, we wanted to put it back together